Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am blessed and honored to have a fabulous guest today here to inspire and encourage us. I think we could all use some inspiration and some encouragement. Even the best of us, the most on fire and encouraged people are often the people that need the most encouragement. So very excited to bring our guest on today. I'm going to welcome him to the show right now. Mr. Bruce Waller, how are you, sir?
I'm good. What an honor. Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Dude, it's so great to have you here. Bruce Waller, for those of you who don't know, I don't know how you don't know, but if you don't know, he's the VP of Corporate Relocation at Armstrong Relocation Companies. Also serves on the North Texas Relocation Professionals, also with the SHRM. I go to SHRM. I think I was in SHRM. Was it SHRM in Vegas? I think I might have ran into you at SHRM in Vegas. Yeah. Dude, you're all over the place, man. How do you do it all, Bruce? How do you find time and energy to volunteer and be a part of so many wonderful organizations?
Man, I'm like you. I've been so blessed. I just try to figure out a way. How can I give back? Hey, I just want to say this real quick. I mean it when I say it's an honor to be here. You have been really doing incredible work. And one of the things I appreciate about this show, I just wanted to say, spotlighting mobility, building relationships, but most importantly, what you do is you bring a community together, and I admire you for that. So appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you, Bruce. Thank you so much for saying that. And I want to talk about that too. You just talk about having that debt of gratitude thing, but going back to, you said just some really nice things about me just now, but I remember my first impression of you, Bruce, was I want to say it was like, maybe it was a regional relocation conference. I want to say it was like a Great Lakes regional maybe. And you were the speaker in one of the sessions, and maybe it was the keynote speaker, but you had the room, right? And you were doing your talk and you had your book, and we're going to talk about your book and everything. And I was sitting there, and this was, 3-4 years ago, maybe. And I was thinking to myself, man, that is so cool. This guy is not only he's a mover, right? Which is like, okay, he's a mover. We're all movers, like whatever. But like, he's so much more than a mover. He's out here, he's writing books about leadership. He's out here inspiring us and challenging us to find, our highest purpose for ourselves and encouraging us. And I was like, man, that is so cool. Like, you don't just have to be a mover. You can be kind of like whoever you want to be with that platform. And that, to me, honestly, was one of the first seeds that gave me the thought that I could even do something like this, Bruce. So I just wanted to tell you how much of an encouragement and inspiration you've been to me over the years, just watching. I don't know you that well. We see each other, we hang out, from time to time, but just watching what you do, man, has really encouraged me in my life and in my path.
Oh man, that's cool. That was Lake Geneva, and thank you, Jennifer Breen.
That's it, Lake Geneva.
For bringing me on and letting me be part of that. That was amazing. That room was packed.
Yeah,
there were probably 150, 200 people there.
Yeah,
and the weather was amazing.
Lake Geneva, it's great. Yeah, it's always like awesome. Late summer too, and it's just like last great weekend in Wisconsin. Yeah, just beautiful. Yeah, but yeah, you did a great job with it. Thank you. You were talking about your book, which is called Find Your Lane. And I'll put it down below here. Check out that book, by the way. If you haven't checked it out, if you haven't bought it yet, can people get it on Amazon, Bruce?
They can. It's available on Amazon. Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah. So tell us about this book. How, why did you write it? What drove you to do that? What was that like?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Find Your Lane. Wow. When I was, we were talking off stage about how you're in your late 30s. That's when I started with Armstrong. And I was talking to my brother yesterday about how much farther Ben is ahead than us in his 30s. I was like, we didn't figure it out till we were in our 40s. But when I was 40, I actually wrote a list of goals. And they weren't do goals, they were who goals. I was trying to figure out, who do I want to be? And I was listing all these different things that I wanted. I wanted to be a part of the President's Club for Armstrong Relocation. I wanted to be married for so many years. I wanted to have graduated kids, etc. And one of those things was I wanted to write a book. And the reason why I wanted to write a book was because of two things. Number one, I'd been writing a blog, and I thought, how can I capture all this information and put it together? Because there's a lot of personal stories. And then I thought, wouldn't it be cool, like, to give out a book? And so I had that on my list. And then 10 years later, I looked at my list and I'd accomplished pretty much all those things except writing the book. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to write the book. And the book was really written to encourage anyone who reads it. It's really my biography, really, of my career, all the ups and downs and twists and turns. And so my hope was, at the end of the day, if somebody picked that book up and they read that, they would be encouraged along the way.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah.
You know, I have a similar list like that, you know, with 5 goals that I actually made after I read the book Grit, and it talked about, you know, having 5 goals or no more than 5 big goals in your life, and everything you do has to lead up to one of those and support one of those, or else you kind of need to just put it off to the side because it's not really furthering you. And writing a book for me was one of my 5 kind of life goals, honestly.
I can see a book in you, Ben. And as a matter of fact, I remember at Lake Geneva afterwards, I also gave an exercise for your personal brand. And I remember you asked me, I think your top one was boldness. Yeah. And I was like, man, that guy is bold. He's bold. I loved it. So I can definitely see you writing a book. It's a game changer. And when the time is right, you'll definitely publish something.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And let's real quick check in with the folks here who are checking in with us. Go ahead and hit that. If you're watching now, I want to give yourself a shout out, give your company a shout out. Let us know where in the world you're coming to us from here. Hit that like button, hit that heart button for Bruce there. Show him some love. And let's go ahead and check out who is with us. Also would love any questions and comments. Just leave them. So let's see here. We got Sandra Clary. Encouragement, yay! Love and Relo is leading the way in this. Thank you, Sandra. We try to add value every day, you know. And it was so funny because we had Judy Holler on, who did the book behind me here. Fear is my homeboy, and she was so high energy. And people hit me up afterwards, and me and Janet like talked about it, and we were like, we need more of those high energy encouragers on the show, you know. And so I'm so happy to have you here, Bruce, and I want to get into that too. Mary Ellen Tratina, hello from Chicago. Hello, Bruce.
Hey, Mary Ellen.
That's great. Let's see here. Victoria McCullough. Hi, Ben and Bruce. Now, Victoria's in Dallas.
She is. As a matter of fact, I know you started a book club, but I also have a book club, too, called Climb, and Victoria's part of that. So, yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, she is. Now, where exactly are you, Bruce? I always like to ask everybody starting out, where in the world are you right now?
So I'm in my home office, and I'm in Crossroads, Texas. You know where Crossroads is?
It sounds like a dangerous place. It sounds like a sheriff and a tumbleweed are going to have it out in the town square.
So I'm actually about 5 miles east of Denton, Texas, which is about 30 miles from the city, north of the city.
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. My cousin went to UNT up there.
I mean, Green. Go Eagles.
Yeah. There you go. Janet Turner, love the Who goals. That is cool.
Yeah.
Tell me just a little bit. Go into that if you don't mind. You were talking about your Who goals and how is that a different goal setting process than what people typically undertake?
Yeah, I think a lot of times people get caught up in these to-do lists and, hey, I'm going to do, have all these do goals, right? I want to run this race. I want to, read 25 books. I want to accomplish these things. But they don't, when you think about, we talk a lot about purpose. And when we think about purpose is more about like being intentional, like who do you want to be? And we don't necessarily want to copy someone. But what we want to do is we want to just, we were talking, I was talking to somebody earlier on a podcast, and we were talking about networking. And we were talking about one of the things about networking is you can see what good looks like and not good looks like. And, right?
Yeah.
And like so, that. But a lot of times you can look and you can pull that, oh man, that guy is so inspirational because he walks slowly through the crowd. Or this person drives everything with values. He's a values driven. And so you start pulling these things that, you know what, I want to be like that. So how do I get to that? Then you start listing down, okay, if I'm going to be a good speaker, right? Now I need to start working on my communication. I need to start surrounding myself with people who are good speakers, or I need to, go to Toastmasters or whatever that is. And so who do you want to be is the most important thing. And that will lead to the do goals.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Let's see here. We got some folks chiming in here. Hosea Botley. Hello, guys from Seattle. What's up, Jose? Good to see you. Tyra Brimmer. Hey,
Tyra.
Big Bruce fan. She's not talking about Springsteen either. She's talking about Waller.
Tyra, I actually have her. She's one of my guests. I'm going to upload her episode this Saturday on Life in the Leadership Lane. She's a tremendous leader in Dallas, Texas, part of Dallas HR. And she's definitely drives in the leadership lane.
She makes a comment here that I think is interesting, impacting lives everywhere. This was my fourth goal, was impact people's lives. You do this extremely well, Bruce, and another reason why I have so much respect and fondness for you. What do you think the key is when it comes to impacting people's lives? I mean, it's kind of a broad term. What does that really mean?
I tell you, I've thought about all the people that have impacted my life, and the first word that comes to mind is belief. Belief, right? They've been people who have believed in me, and I know what that feels like.
That's
and
right.
I'm like, God, that feels so good. So now I want to give that too. And so, I've always talked about the importance of, adding value to people, but really more than importantly, believing in people and giving them that encouragement to keep going. We all need that. We were talking about that offline. As I heard someone say, who needs encouragement? It's anyone who's breathing.
Yeah.
Right? And so if we can do that, if we can lift them up in my book, I talked about being a lifter. And I think if we could just lift them up, that's where the joy is. That's where the joy is in life, in our careers, in our communities. That's it.
I love the fact you talk about, I think you put your finger on something that frankly I've not really heard people articulate in the past. So I want to call it out, and I want to delve into it. You talked about belief and people believing in you, and it kind of brought a tear to my eye, to be completely honest with you, because that's exactly, you hit the nail on the head squarely. And I can think back on the people who believed in me, and it's usually at a time, it sticks out because it's at a time when people aren't generally believing in you, right? They believe in you in lieu of actual results, right? They believe in your potential, or they believe in you regardless of your present circumstance. Who believed in you, Bruce, early on, before you were Bruce Waller, when you were just, whoever you used to be?
I mean, that's simple. I mean, I'll start with my mother. I remember, early on, my parents are bowling proprietors.
Oh, really?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So you ever bowl?
I mean, a little bit, not like you probably, but a little bit.
As a matter of fact, that's where Find Your Lane title came from
Gosh.
bowling. And, but I remember I didn't have that belief in myself, and my mother, and she believed in me. She said, "Oh yes, you can do that. You need to try this. You need to do that," or whatever it was I wanted to do. She believed in me, and she really instilled that in me. I remember when another time, whenever I was a high school football player. I mean, I wasn't any good. I was 5'8", third string quarterback. But I remember our coach, how he had that belief, and it just I wanted to be a coach because he gave me that belief. And then, a couple other people, my brother, who's also in the business, has always believed in me. And then my boss, Mike Gonzalez, he's believed in me from day one. I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, I think belief is huge. It's huge. And I think that's when you really can draw and really connect with people on just that different level, when you can show that belief.
I'd love it if you're watching this right now. I'd love it if you left in the comments somebody's name or tagged them that believed in you when maybe you really needed it and you needed some encouragement in your life, or maybe they were your day one or your right hand or whatever you want to call it. But if you wouldn't mind, just leave it in the comments here. We got several people watching this right now on Facebook, on LinkedIn. We've got over 30 something people watching. So yeah, leave it in the comments. Give people a shout out. Bless them forward, man, because they were there for you back in the day. So leave a blessing for somebody there in the comments and shout them out. Love it. Love it. Love it. Denise Snow. Hi, Bruce. Love your story.
Hey, Denise. Awesome.
Yep. Mena from Dubai. Hello, Mena. It's good to see you. Karen Davidson. Bruce is one of my favorite people.
She's a great SHRM leader in South Carolina. Hey, Karen.
Wow. Yeah, it seems to be a common theme. I mean, you know, I always heard your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not around, right? You know, and people, of course, now you are around, so maybe they're just kissing up, but they generally seem to love you, you know. And how do you think you create that kind of because I mean, that's what we're really talking about. How do you create that kind of a personal brand or create that kind of an impression on people where they just come out and they just become such enthusiasts, you know, like just shouting it from the YouTube?
Yeah.
What is it about your approach, you think?
Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, you know, people, when it comes to that, I mean,
I know it's a personal question. I know it's kind of putting you on the spot here.
I'm just sitting here like
your own horn a little bit, you know.
I've got chills in here, and you know, I think at the end of the day, it's that when you really like invest in someone and you really lean in, and you really are, I call it, you know, when you're networking, call it VIP, right? When you're visible, when you're in the moment, you're purposeful in what you do. I think people know that you're interested and that you care, right? I mean, who said it? Was it Theodore Roosevelt said people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care? And
yeah,
I think
it was Dale Carnegie, actually, I believe.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, at the end of the day, you know, listen, I think that's even one of the challenges in the workplace is that, you know, we all go to work, we're all, you know, doing work, right? We all have these business goals that we're trying to do, but nobody stops to really dive in to really have a conversation with each other and invest that time, because I mean, it takes time, right? Yeah. And so I think that when we, to answer your question, I think that when we really intentionally invest time in each other, that's where it's all at.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. We've got so many people checking in here. That's great. I'm going to get to all of you here. But Victoria actually asked a question. You mentioned your brother, Mark. All right, Mark Waller. Okay, he's probably watching. Hopefully, maybe not. She says, you seem to be so much more out there than Mark. And I don't know if she means like mentally out there or just like your presence is out there, right? But she said, and I wanted to ask you some questions about this because I think it's hilarious. So people, if you don't know, Mark Waller is a household goods sales guy for, I think is it A1 Freeman?
It is. Yeah, in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, North American agent. And I just think this is great because I'm dying to know what that dynamic is like. Okay, because you're in the same market, you're selling two different brands and moving. Okay. And I got to imagine that y'all bump into each other from time to time and it ain't just over turkey at Thanksgiving. So she says, you seem to be so much more out there than Mark. Did you two compete with each other growing up?
Hey, listen, Mark got me in this business back in 1995. Everybody thought I was going to be the heir apparent of the bowling centers, right? Yeah. So my parents owned two bowling centers at the time, and but bowling, people bowl at night and on the weekends. Okay. And my wife, she's a school teacher, so she worked in the day and I worked at night. We have 3 children. It just didn't work. And so I said, hey, Mark, I got to figure out a way. And I was sending my resume out trying to get a job, put my bowling experience.
Right.
Everybody's like, hey, we can't do anything with this guy. And then so Mark was able, when I graduated from college, he helped me get a job with a company here in Dallas, Texas. So we worked together for many years. And in 2001, he left the organization, went to A1 Freeman. And then I went to a couple of other organizations. So yeah, it's interesting. I'll tell you, he's a great mentor for me. He's a great mentor for me. He's actually the general manager of the organization in Dallas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, GM.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the GM. So I always tell people all the time, 2 things. Number one, he's the GM. Okay, you don't need that guy.
Yeah. You don't need. He gets a salary. Okay,
he's a salary guy. I got to make a commission here. Okay.
Yeah. That's funny.
And then number two, I always tell my family, call Mark. He can move you.
Ain't that the truth though? It's like the people you like, you want their business, the people you love, you're like, hey, now go down the street. I'm sure they'll take care of you. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. You don't want to lose a friend over a move. I get you. I feel you on that one. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Well, that's funny because I keep seeing it. Well, see, I didn't realize Mark was a GM because I see him on the sales report and he's always kind of up there and I'm kind of like trying to get at him a little bit. And I thought he was working for a living. So now it just set me straight. I appreciate that. Now I didn't realize that. I thought he was eating what he killed. He's eating what other people kill out there. I get it. Okay, no worries. That's funny though. All kidding aside though, that's really cool. Mark Gray says, watching two icons of the household goods industry, Ben Cross and Bruce Waller. Hello from rainy Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey, Mark. Awesome. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, Mark's a legend in his own right.
Yeah, no question.
For those of you who don't know, Mark is the moving recruiter. Mark says Kevin Piscatelli, then the sales manager for William B. Meyer in Connecticut, believed in me enough to give me my first recruiting assignment over 26 years ago. Thank you forever, Kevin. That's awesome, Mark. And I appreciate you leaving that comment and then blessing Kevin like that. Bruce, do you remember your first client?
I do remember my first client. And I remember, absolutely. I remember that day. Funny story. The guy actually called me and he said, hey man, I can't get anybody to move a table from Atlanta. And I'm the CEO for this company. And if you could come out, if you could help me, I'm going to give you some business. Anyway, long story short, we got it done. I went out there and we became good friends, but absolutely. I was just going to say, Mark, doesn't it feel good to reflect? Reflect on that moment and remind yourself of like the people that helped you get to where you are today. And then it also like inspires you to like help that next person.
That's right.
So cool. That is so cool. That made my day, that comment right there.
I know it. And you can hear in Mark's voice here that was his first, there's some desperation right there. He was in a spot and he was like, hey man, I'm going out on my own. I'm trying to do this thing and somebody's got to be my first one, and that person that believed in you in absence of results and just had faith, right? Faith is belief in the things not yet, shown. And so that's really cool. I remember my first client. I still to this day, and I shout him out all the time because he believed in me. And that's Tom Colucci. Because I hope he's proud of the fact that he was in on me early. But Tom Colucci at MSI up in Hampton, New Hampshire, he was the vice president of supply chain up there, and he was my first major client. And man, he went through hell and back with me. I'll tell you what, being my first client. But he stuck with me and he was always kind to me, and I just remember him forever for that, So let's see here. We got some more comments coming in. This is fun. This is already fun. This is going to be fun. Let's see here. Denise says, that's so good, Bruce. Focus on who to be, not what to be.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, Denise is outstanding. She's actually going to be on an upcoming podcast, and she's got a great story. She was actually received the Employee of the Year at two different major companies, Starbucks and Interstate Batteries. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, she's incredible. Yeah. You'll have to listen in and hear her story. Awesome.
Is she going to be on your podcast?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and shout that out real quick so people know where to find you there. Tell us about the podcast.
Yeah, no. So one of the things that during this COVID is us just trying to figure out a way to pivot, right? Trying to figure out, nobody's moving. So how are you going to serve, right? This is not a time to sell. It's time to serve.
Yeah.
And so I had this idea about 3 years ago, and I shared it with several people. And I said, hey, I want to take my video camera and I want to go out to my clients because they're all your best friends. And
right.
I want to just hold 5 minutes. I want to just ask them a couple of questions, videotape it and upload it and call it Leader on the Street. I thought, hey, like Jay Leno or whatever, Jimmy Fallon, dating myself. And I never did really do it. It was just not the right time, whatever, busy. And then when COVID hit, and somebody invited me to a Zoom call, and I'm like, oh, I think maybe I'll start this podcast thing. So I decided to start the podcast. I kind of paralleled it with Find Your Lane book called Life in the Leadership Lane. And it's interviewing leaders that make a difference in the workplace and in the community. How did they get started and what are they doing to stay there? And that's really it. And so had some great interviews. I interviewed the chairman of the board for National SHRM, David Windley, and he was fantastic. I mean, I've interviewed some great clients. So yeah, it's, and I'm looking forward to cause I learned so much myself.
Yeah.
Right. Just asking them, hey, tell me about this. Tell me your story. What are some disciplines you have in your leadership every day? And so, anyway, so I've had a great conversation with Denise. And so I look forward to, and I drop that every Saturday and I'm on episode, I think 16. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Weekly.
That's fantastic. And people can find that.
They can find that
on
Apple, Spotify, Google. You can also go to YouTube and find that on my YouTube channel. Yeah.
Nice. You have so many really, really cool relationships. You can tell just, with all the folks that are chiming in from all these different kinds of walks of life and verticals and whatnot. Tell me about relationships. I mean, I'm huge on relationships. Obviously, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. You are too, I could tell. What's your take on relationships? Why they're so important, and maybe some tips for some people out there in forming those, especially in this environment that we're in right now.
I mean, like I said before, I think that one of the things that we're missing in our careers is taking time to really not just connect. I mean, think about it. How many people do you have on LinkedIn where you don't even know who they are?
Too many.
I'm first in line.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do I figure out a way to connect with them on a deeper level? And so what do? We serve. We got to find ways to serve. Right. And so how do we do that? Well, there are so many ways. And during COVID, I will tell you, I can't imagine being a person out of college trying to build a network during COVID. I mean, we're not going to networking events. Everything's virtual. And so, when I wrote the book, Find Your Lane, I actually wrote 10 ways to impact people in the workplace. And you could still do that even during these times. So for example, how about writing somebody a LinkedIn review when they don't ask?
Mm-hmm.
How about that? Can you imagine getting a review and you didn't even ask for it? You're like, that's a mile marker. It's impactful.
I love that one. I want to challenge everybody that's watching this right now. We got probably 30 something people watching us right now. Take a moment. You can still hear us. Take a moment, go to LinkedIn, pick somebody and somebody that's touched you in the last week that's been on your mind, and leave them a LinkedIn recommendation right now. Please go do that right now. Leave them a LinkedIn recommendation. Go be a blessing and serve somebody, please.
Well, I was just going to say it's going to impact the person writing it probably as much or more, right, than the person receiving it. So it's a game changer. I want to just share. I'm a big note writer. Do you write notes, Ben? Oh
my gosh, everywhere. I'm looking at my desk right now, like all over the place. I take email, print them out. I get little notes on there and stuff. I don't even know what this says. I hope it's not proprietary. But no, I just got notes everywhere. I'm a huge note person.
I love it. So, and I write a lot of notes too. Big fan of George H.W. Bush. But I was reading a story about a guy named Frank Blake.
Okay.
So Frank Blake is the former CEO for Home Depot.
Okay.
And so after his 7 years of serving, he retired. He got in all these boxes of letters, and they was trying to figure out, what the deal was. He had written, you ready?
Yeah.
25,000 letters to his employees over a 7-year period of time. Think about that.
I am thinking about that. 7 times 300 is 20. So he's doing 10 a day.
Yeah. What he was doing. Yeah. He was doing on the weekend, he was trying to do 100 a weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you can go out online and just look up Frank Blake and his note writing. But so what he understood there is the importance of relationships and people. And so he knew the importance of that. So I say this, if there's an opportunity, listen, you talk about being a differentiator. I know you've talked about that on this show. At first it's a podcast. Before long, it's going to meet somebody at their office. It might be a differentiator. But a differentiator today is think about the mail you get, right? How many personal notes do you get?
Yep, I save them all.
Yeah, me too.
The last one. Look at this the last one from, and I'm going to shout her out, Jennifer Anderson right here. She actually put my logo on the envelope, and then she wrote a card, and she made a custom card with all her favorite moments from the show, and told me how cool the show has been for her, whatever. And this was such a blessing to me that I kept her in mind because she touched me and just touched me like in such a way. It's been on my desk, and I literally gave her a client today just because she's been on my mind. And I mean, I was so blown away by the attention to detail. To your point, Bruce, to your point.
And she didn't do that so you would give her a client either,
No,
did she?
no.
She just did that because she felt, she wanted to give that to you. That was her way of giving. Wasn't that awesome? That's powerful,
Amazing.
isn't it?
I kept it. It's right on top of my desk for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah. So just a simple idea of sending a note. How about nominating somebody for an award?
Oh, yeah. Huge.
Hey, by the way, congratulations on your award. I read where you received the Young Scholarship.
Some Young award. I don't know. I ain't gonna be young forever. I might as well get the trophies now, right? But yeah, it was the Young AMSA Young Executive Model of Leadership, Model of Excellence Award, or something like that.
Did you get nominated for that?
Yeah, I did.
So somebody nominated you for that. How powerful is that? Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I nominated myself for it. Is what happened.
I love it.
Hey man, you can't. Listen, man. God gave you a horn. You can't wait for somebody to come along and toot it, man. You got you got to toot that thing yourself. But no, I agree though, Bruce. And actually, we got so many phenomenal comments here. I want to talk about service because you keep coming back to serving, and I want to ask, and I want to go into the ROI on serving, which I think is such a terrible question. So I'm gonna say an unfair question, but I'm gonna ask it to you because I've had bosses that have asked me this very question, and since you are a serial volunteer, as am I, I want to put you on the spot and ask you the same ridiculous questions I've been getting for the last 10 years of my life. So, but before we get to that, I want to go through here. Doug Powers, Mr. Waller, you are the man. Go Armstrong. That's funny. That's great.
Hey, Doug.
Shout out to Doug. Georgia Angle, great information. Let's see here. George Meyer, hi from Corporate Living, New York City. John Varell says hello as well. Excellent. My good friend Richard Corona, CEO of Enterprise Database Corporation out of Virginia. Great software. Mary Ellen Tratina, lifting people up in all aspects of lives, we lift ourselves up. Ooh.
Nice. Very nice.
Good. That's good stuff. Jane Priest Wilson, love and respect Bruce Waller as a leader in the relocation industry. That's nice.
Thank you, Jane.
Jane, friend of the show, been on before.
Yep.
Miriam Van Kempen, you look great in pink, Ben. I appreciate you, Miriam, because that's probably the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Miriam's a tough customer. She came on here. The Dutch are very, very, very tough. She came on here, and then actually, I'm glad you said that, Miriam, because I got this crazy British guy over here says, I love you, Ben, but you're upset me with your orange shirt. Relationships is all about being honest, isn't it? Man, you know what? That's why we're not British anymore, Simon. Go home. Get out of here, man, with that crazy talk. Just kidding. I love you. So, I mean, what happens is the British, they get into the gin and tonics on the show, and they get crazy in the comments sometimes is what they do. You seem to be so much more out there. Okay, we talked about Victoria here. Alex, Bruce is my hero. Bruce always says your net worth is only as good as
your network.
Your network. That's right. Finish it, Bruce.
I love it. That is great.
Bruce is an amazing mentor. Love you, my brother, Alex McNeely in Dallas. Jane Wilson.
Hey, Alex.
Love Mark and Bruce, both wonderful guys that are great relocation professionals. This is so much fun. This is great. Huge fan of Mr. Waller. He is always authentic. Bruce is a positive influencer.
Hey, Jennifer.
That's wonderful. Let's see. Nice to meet you, Bruce. I see that one of the subjects is volunteer leadership. What do you think motivates the team? Okay. So before we get into Miriam's question, great question, Miriam. Before we get into Miriam's question, Bruce, I'm going to ask you an unfair question. Okay. I said I was going to ask you an unfair question. This kind of guy I am. what is the ROI on service, on all this volunteer stuff, on all this time you spend in the community and giving back and working on helping other people and increasing their net worth? What is the ROI on that? I've had so many bosses over the last 10 years ask me this question. I can't stand it. So I'm going to ask you. I'm passing the trash, Bruce. I'm passing it.
I think my boss is asking that question too.
Yeah, he boss wrote in and said, ask Bruce this question.
Yeah, exactly.
And my boss told him to ask me.
Oh man, let me tell you, when I joined Armstrong in 2004, I saw a quote, and I don't remember the quote, but I can tell you about it. So it was a quote by Ray Kroc, and he said, "If you worry about the money, you'll never make it. But if you take care of the people, they'll always take care of you." Wow. And I just saw that. And so I'm going to give you an example. I remember my very first move with Armstrong. I was so excited. I had zero business. I had just joined the group, and I got a call from a friend. He said, "Hey, my banker, he needs to move his mom." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm on it." And so I did the survey, and I think it was a dresser and a box, maybe a stool. Need to move her to Houston, right? So I moved her, and I made like $20. I was so excited. I was so fulfilled from that. And I knew I had found my lane at that time because I was the guy that I helped move his mom, he called me, he said, "You don't realize what a relief that was for me." Fast forward, I've moved him 3 times since. I've moved a couple of referrals for him. So what was that word? So when you're serving in the community, if you are just going in for an agenda that, hey, I'm going to see what I can get out of this, you're probably not gonna do well. If you go help people, they will remember, and eventually you'll get help in so many ways. It might be a referral. It might be, it could be a lot of different ways. Yeah. And so it's hard to measure that, right? It's hard to measure it in it's like finite dollars. Mm-hmm. But you look at all the people that have had success, you yourself, they're serving.
That's right.
They're serving.
100%. Amen. 100%. 100,000%. You know how many people told me they like this show because of what it does for our community, and how I don't even talk about my company when I come on this show, because it's really not even about my company. It's not even about getting moves. It's about giving people a platform for their voice, for their story, for their perspectives, giving us an arena for us to connect. And that's what draws people in, And I think it's hard. It's hard sometimes. Let me ask you, how do you do? Listen, you're a sales guy. I'm a sales guy. We got quotas to meet. We got, right. If we don't sell something, we don't eat. Right. Right. I hate to boil it down, but, and I hate to
true story.
I have to pull the curtain back for all y'all, but okay, this is how it really is. Okay. We're some nice guys, but it's a tough business. Okay. Yeah. My point though, in saying that is, how do you separate that mentality of like, I eat what I kill, so I gotta go out and bring home the bacon for mama. How do you remove that and say, I'm gonna serve first? Because it's not intuitive. It's almost sometimes can be counter instinctual. How do you disengage that? Because it's hard, man. Some people can't do it.
No, it is hard. And a lot of people talk about work-life balance. But Tony Hsu, the CEO for Zappos, he always talked about work-life integration, right? So you're always who you are. You're a sales guy, your family, that same person, 24 hours a day, right? And so, which means like for us, we're telling people in the community what we do. We're not selling them. We're just letting them know, hey, here's what I do. Let me know if you need help. Same way. We both have probably experienced the same thing where it's 5:00 and you're ready to go home and see your family, but you've already committed to this social event to go do some networking. And you're like, oh man, I'm going to go. And then you leave there and you're like, oh, I'm so glad I went.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I went. I met so-and-so. And for me, I might have got one time, I remember getting an idea to go write a blog. And I went home and I wrote a blog after talking to this person. She inspired me so much.
Wow.
And so I think that's, at the end of the day, we're talking about, serving. How do I don't think there is a drawing the line in the sand. And I think but I will say this, you just have to find you're right. You have to find your lane, right? Your tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember early on when I was networking with some groups that they just weren't in my lane. So I had to pivot. I didn't stay there, where some people might stay there.
Talk to me about the pivot. This is the second time you mentioned pivoting, right? And you mentioned pivoting in your lane, in relationships, and the fact that right now it's COVID, and how do you pivot from an in-person networking to a digitized version? How are you, when you say you're going to pivot? What is that thought process like, and how do you figure out where to pivot to? I think a lot of us probably look at our present situation. We're like, well, gosh, this isn't where I want to be. Yeah. But now where do I pivot to? How do you figure that out?
Yeah, I think, one of the things I've heard, you ever listen to Gary Vaynerchuk?
Oh, of course. Gary V.
Okay. So Gary V, I mean, come on. He talks about self-awareness, right? And so it's first about self-awareness, but it's about surrounding yourself with the right people, number one, and letting people know, kind of where you're at, having meaningful conversations with them. And then you can kind of see that, if let's say I'm a professional speaker, I'm not going to be going and I got to do something different or I'm not going to survive. So I need to go virtual. Mm-hmm. So what do I do to go to virtual? Well, I got to learn the platform. I got to talk to some different people. So I think it's about bringing people with you. In chapter 5 of my book, Find Your Lane, I call it the carpool lane. And it's about bringing people with you on that journey. And so you've got to keep bringing people with you. You got to keep sharing your stories with them. And then, you'll get ideas from them. Many times you may be going to help them and they help you more than, I remember I've had conversations with different friends, clients about certain things. They're like, hey, have you ever thought about this? And I'm like, that's brilliant. No, I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. And so because I was surrounded by that group, that community, I was able to, pivot. So like for me, I pivoted. One of the things that when COVID hit, and you were probably similar, Ben, is that I said, I want to do 3 things. I want to stay connected. I got to find a way to stay connected. Everybody's at home. Stay connected. I want to try to figure out a way to stay visible so I can help people. And I want to stay educated. And anything in that sphere, I stayed in that zone right there, and I continue to stay in that. Now I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do you keep doing that as we move forward through COVID and past that? But I think it's just trying to get your hand around, okay, where do I want to be, and just try to and let people know your story.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff here. Let's go to Miriam's question here. Nice to meet you, Bruce. I see that one of the subjects is, quote, volunteer leadership. What do you think motivates a team?
Listen, that's a great question. I talk about high performing teams a lot on my podcast with HR leaders, and a lot of them talk about the same thing, and that is caring enough to challenge the conversation. I think that's one of the things, because when you challenge that conversation and you're showing you're caring, you're helping that team get better along the way. But I think at the end of the day, for Texas SHRM, we have everything's mission driven, right? So we're there to support and connect chapter leaders to elevate the profession. And we do that through education. We do that through advocacy, and we do that through personal development. And I think that at the end of the day, I think it's about what's the mission, right? What's the purpose? What's that? And just keep everybody driving towards that. I think that when people know that there's a purpose, they're all moving in that same direction.
Love it.
Yeah.
Janaina, and everybody, if you're watching right now, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that heart button. That's our little thing here on Love and Real. Hit that heart button. Lets everybody else know that we are live and they can tune in and check Bruce out. We got about 15 more minutes here. Janaina says, I'm reading this book, The Servant, and it's all about what Bruce is saying. You lead by serving, and I believe you don't have to do waiting for the return. We need to follow what we believe, understand our purpose, and everything else is consequence. Planting and harvesting is real.
That is so good. That's so good. Hey, you know that I think about Darren Hardy once shared the 100-0 rule that goes along with that. If you'll focus on giving 100 and expect zero, you don't ever worry about it. You just keep giving. Good things that happen.
Yeah, love it. Let's see here. Pierre, greetings from Geneva, Switzerland. Now, Pierre, despite the time zone, Pierre is typically pretty well behaved. So let's see what he has to say. Pierre says, "What is the purpose? What's the purpose? Is probably the main question to motivate a team." Yeah, I think you're right, and you said that, Bruce. Right? It's about the team needs to know where they're going, right? And somebody once told me an analogy of imagine a soccer team, but there was no goal on the field. Like, where would people be kicking that ball, right? And that was kind of brilliant and kind of like brought into focus for me. This has been one aspect, I got to be honest with you, that I struggle, Bruce. I don't really manage. It's been a while. Let me rephrase. It's been a while since I've managed teams. I used to have 120 people in a call center under 5 managers, and I managed the managers. I mean, so I've managed some fairly large organizations before, but I never felt truly comfortable in it. I never felt like, I don't know if it was my skill set or my personality or what, wasn't really geared for it. And I struggle with it. And I think also it's because I'm not super even keel, and I can kind of be up and down. I can kind of be hot and cold. And I think people need kind of more steadiness, and they need to kind of have more predictability in their leadership. And I think that's one of the things I struggle with. Bruce, what is your thoughts on leadership? When leading teams and organizations, do you lead teams, and what thoughts do you have on that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think, everything rises and falls on leadership, right? And everything's going to be magnified depending on that leadership level. So with Armstrong Relocation, I don't necessarily lead a team. I'm part of a team at Dallas HR, the third largest SHRM chapter in the country. When I was the president of the organization in 2012, it seems like forever ago, doesn't it? 2012. Oh my gosh.
I wasn't going to say nothing, Bruce, but I mean, you did the math for me.
Oh my goodness.
It was a bit ago.
So, I led a board of directors. They're all volunteer leaders. And then today I have a team of 5 or 7 chapter leaders in the state of Texas. And, I think at the end of the day, have you ever heard that saying, people change for one of 2 reasons, inspiration or desperation?
No, I haven't, but I love it.
Yeah. So Jim Rohn said that. And so first of all, we just got to remember that everybody doesn't want to change. I mean, if they're not inspired to change or they're not desperate, I mean, think about, New Year's resolutions. People have all these New Year's resolutions, but if they're not desperate, they're not going to do anything. And so I think that it all goes back to what we were talking about before: relationship building, driving with mission. And just having those conversations along the way, and try to deepen those relationships.
Let's see here. Miriam says, "I love your honesty, Ben." Yeah, I'll lay it out there. I'll tell you if I'm not good at something. I toot my horn, but I'll tell you if I played a bad note. I'll tell you. I'll let you know. Francine says, "I love that book, Janaina." Yep. Shout out to Francine here. Francine says, "Ben and Bruce are both great examples of servant leadership."
Thank you.
Doug says Bruce is the poster child for the Armstrong DNA.
Oh, thanks, Doug.
Miriam's answering my question. The ROI on service is called karma, Ben. Okay, cool. Lynn Stewart, you always make a difference. Great listening to you today. Oh, this is great.
Hey, Lynn.
Ray, encouragement is more important than ever. Talk about that role of encouragement and being an encourager, because I think, we talked about that a little bit, but here we are in COVID, right? And this thing can really play a number on your mindset right now. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of mindset being next to time being our second most valuable resource is mindset. And COVID and the negativity and reading the news and reading your Facebook feed, it can just really mess you up. And, what is that role of encouragement, and what is your advice to those of us out here going through this COVID right now?
Well, I mean, think about it. If you're fearful, right? Think of how your team feels, right? If you're going into work and you're fearful of going back to work, or in situations and you've got a team you're leading, they're probably feeling the same thing you're feeling. At the end of the day, years ago, I read a book by Darren Hardy called The Compound Effect. And one of the things he talked about was having a daily routine. And he's big on not watching the news and trying to just fill your mind with positivity. And so, several years ago, I just decided that was going to be part of my day, part of my daily discipline, right? So, get up at 5 a.m. And do my workout and do my reading and just get myself mentally prepared. I think right now what you're talking about, though, is the mental side, the mental health in the workplace. I mean, that's a hot topic. That's a big topic in HR. Yep. And I think everybody's trying to figure that out. But, I think at the end of the day, that's where encouragement can help. Right. If you can go in and you can encourage someone, hey, how's your day going? And having those conversations before you get into, hey, let me give you an example. I have two wonderful grandkids, right? Crosby and Sutton. and my wife is the daycare director for the school system. And when the school shut down, my wife, of course, is at home. And my daughter and her husband both work. So where did their kids go? They come to our house. So all of a sudden I became a working parent. And I, getting on calls, and, my wife sees me in there and she's like, is that what you do all day?
Yeah, you're on the phone. Doesn't it trip me out a little bit?
You're on the phone. You're having these podcasts. You're doing. Yeah. Here, come in here and help Crosby. And I thought there were many times where I struggled myself, and it gave me empathy for working parents. It gave me empathy. And it made me want to encourage people even more. And so when I'm getting on a call or I'm talking to someone, first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about them personally. How are you doing? Right? How can I help that? And how can, at the end of the call, you feel better about yourself or being part of that, conversation. Yeah. So that's really at the end of the day, that if we could just encourage people along the way, I think it's going to go a long way.
Well, and I think it's important too, because here we got all these audience people, right? And some people are CEOs of companies, some people are just associate level, right? And I think that sometimes we take too many cues from our title at work, and we forget that we're all just people. Yeah. And I want to tell people out there that even if your title's not vice president, you still have an opportunity to encourage each other, and you still have an opportunity to lead people spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And I think there's a real opportunity. And if you're watching this right now and you just need to hear this, I want to tell you right now, I give you permission to go do that. Okay. It's okay to step out and do that. I think a lot of times we feel like when we're stepping outside of our assigned role or what we think people expect of us, that sometimes we're going to get some sort of a backlash or a side eye or something. And somebody's going to say, well, who do you think you are, acting like all, whatever, being a leader. But the truth of the matter is a lot of people need encouragement right now. And so I want to encourage others to encourage others. And I appreciate you for that, Bruce, a lot. You got some funny stories, man, like in your book, just talking to you, you got phenomenal stories. And one story that really stuck with me from when you talked to Lake Geneva, gosh, I'm still stuck on the story I read on your blog the other day too. But I want you to tell the parking lot story, if you don't mind, okay? Because I think this is great, right? I think we've all been in a situation like this. I think we can all relate to it. Tell us what's that about the parking lot story?
Yeah, funny today, not so funny at the time. So yeah, when I was a young manager, I went to work for an organization. and I was the operations manager in Dallas, Texas. Had a crew of about 40 people. I had 3 or 4 people in my operations department. And so, when you're operations manager, you're responsible for, dispatching the crews, but also facilities. And we had a parking lot that had pothole after pothole. People were complaining. And I was there to try to help, decrease expenses and try to help turn it around. And so fixing that parking lot was low on my priority list because I knew it was going to cost some money.
Yeah.
And so one day, a guy named Joe comes in the office. He says, "Hey, I'm doing some work down the street, some asphalt at the Home Depot, and I think I'm going to have some left over. Hey, how about if I come and fill your potholes?" And I'm like, "Well, okay, well, how much does that cost?" And he's like, so much a cubic foot. And I was like, "I don't even know what that means." And he said, "Okay, probably about $900,000. I was like, "Well, I have approval to spend up to $2,500. You know what? Let's just do it. Let's just do it, Joe." He said, "Okay, I'll be there Friday." And so on Thursday, my wife calls and says, "Hey, we had something personal come up." And so I told my assistant, I said, "Hey, Tor, hey, Joe's going to come over. He's going to fill the potholes on Friday. Call me if there's a problem. Just take care of it." He said, "Okay, boss." And so I said, "But I'll come in on Saturday and dispatch the crews." And so on Friday, nobody called. And I'm thinking, no news is what?
Good news. Hey, we're in the moving business. This sounds like a moving story. I don't know what cubic feet is. I got a truck in your area. Like, no news is good news. This is a moving story. Okay.
I come in on Saturday. I'm driving to work. I turn the corner and I see this. I couldn't believe it. My eyes were this big. The parking lot was perfectly paved. I was envisioning a bunch of black little speckles.
Yeah, sure.
Chocolate chip. And it was black. It was perfect. The yellow lines were drawn, painted, even had a handicap sign. It was was beautiful. And I thought to myself 2 things. Number one, I thought, I wonder how much this cost. Surely this didn't cost $1,000.
$2,500.
The second thing was, I'm going to get fired.
Oh.
And so anyway, long story short, I didn't get fired. We got it worked out, but I called Joe and I said, "Joe, pretty nice job here. I can't believe you did all this for $1,000. He said, No, it's going to be much more than that." And I said, "Well, good thing I signed the contract." He's like, "Well, it's per cubic foot. And we had X amount of cubic foot. So now it's going to be $20,000. And so anyway, it's funny today, but at the time you ever have that, Ben? You have that black cloud that just follows you around because you don't like disappointing people?
Sure.
Yeah, right? And so I had that black cloud for a long time, but it finally went away.
What was that conversation with your boss like when you're coming in to turn around the operation, straighten out the P&L, cut costs, increase revenue, and early on the job, you're like, "Hey, you know what we need? A new parking lot."
Exactly. Let me just tell you, man, that was not good. You ever see those movie like crime shows where the guy goes in, they put him under the spotlight and he's sweating? That was me.
They work him over with a phone book.
That was me. That was me. Oh my goodness. Hey, but it's a funny story for a book, right?
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thanks.
I love it here. Let's see. Matthew Odike, read his book. Read his book, Find Your Lane.
Oh, hey, Matthew.
Shout out to Bruce, a great man.
What's up, buddy?
Man, that's big talk, too. Matthew doesn't have anything nice to say about anybody, man. That's incredible. Pierre Geronimo, a title is a very temporary thing. It does not reflect your personality and you're adding value to the organization. I love that. A title is a temporary thing. Having worked in large organizations, I've seen a lot of people making great presentations about values such as empathy, care, and back to their office, not even saying a word to the receptionist.
Yeah.
It's you talk about titles, right? So I was on your blog the other day, right? Poking around, let me see what Bruce has been up to, right? And I'm poking around and I read one of your blog posts. And I just thought it was fantastic, by the way. And it was about a time you got a new title. And we got just a minute. You want to tell that story real quick?
Real quick story. All right. Real quick story. I just become the manager of the international department and we got to order business cards. I was so excited. So I
Yeah.
ordered my business cards, and on my title, they had it wrong. They had it misspelled. And I was like, I can't, man. So I called the guy and I said, hey, Franco, hey, I got a problem with this business card, man. I'm gonna have to get these reordered. This is not right. And he said, Bruce, dude, just white it out. And I was like, paused. I was like, what? Yeah, just white it out, man. Yeah, it's no big deal. I was like, are you kidding me?
You're just painting each card, just like, I mean, come on.
And I was thinking to myself, man, I'm like, why am I so frustrated? And he stops me. He said, hey, Bruce, it's no big deal, man. Well, are you okay? He could tell that I was just like so tense. I was thinking, why was I making such a big deal of that? I was probably 27, 28 years old.
So he was pulling your leg the whole time, and he got you all wound up, man. I think that's funny, right? Because I mean, it goes back to how important we take our titles, and we put so much into it. And it's one of those things, to be honest. I mean, here we are, a couple of VPs talking, right, about how unimportant titles are, but then there's people so it's one of those things, once you get it, you don't really care about it. So I get it. I was that way too. I was dying to be a manager, just have that manager in front of my name. I was a supervisor, and then we fought like cats and dogs when I was over at Pods, man, to be the manager. It was very coveted. And then when you got to it, you're just like, man, so what, I get about $4,000 more and about a bigger butt chew and everything. Pierre Geronimo, SVP Global Client Excellence. I love that title. There you go. Charlie Beatty checking in. Hi, Bruce and Ben. We got a recommendation for Francine. Man. Looking at John Maxwell's book, 360 Leader. This is excellent. Nice. This has been a lot of fun. Bruce, this has been a lot of fun. I want to ask you, just as we're kind of wrapping up here, is there a final thought that maybe you want to leave our audience with today?
No, first of all, I just want to say thank you. I mean, seriously, thank you. This has been an honor just to be part of your show. I'm a big fan. I appreciate you and what you're doing for the mobility industry, for just business, just modeling leadership, right? People see that and they're like, you know what? I want to be like Ben. I'm going to make my who goals, right? And so you're doing that for a lot of people. And I just say this. I just say, you know what? Just keep encouraging people, keep serving people. And good things will happen along the way. Find your lane.
Amen. That's awesome. We got a couple of folks here who thank you so much, Bruce. We got a couple of folks here who excited to see you. I don't know who this guy is. Security.
But the real dirt. Yeah.
You know what? Now that I think we got another hour here, Mark. Just go ahead.
It's time to go. Perfect timing.
Oh gosh, I bet some stories happened in the bowling alley. That's all I'm going to say. That's great. Fantastic. Well, Bruce, thank you so much. Bruce Waller, Vice President, Corporate Relocation, Armstrong Relocation and Companies, and tons more volunteer roles as well that you serve in. Bruce, thank you so much for being on Love and Relo today. It's been a real honor and a pleasure.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate you, brother.
Take care, man. Good seeing y'all out there. Thanks everybody for chiming in, leaving great questions and comments. See y'all.